Good evening. Y'all pardon the road noise. After several people telling me I needed to do a channel about how I do my trapping, I figured, well, I'll listen. Put an Instagram message out, one of them posts. I don't know all the lingo, but it come back favorable that people was curious about what I do and how I catch coyotes. So here we are. We're gonna try this thing. I ain't no good at it, but we're gonna try it. One of my buddies called me today and asked about waxing and dyeing traps. Asked me if he needed to dye them again, and I told him no, I wouldn't think so. I would just re-wax them, considering half my traps are painted orange. And the reason I do that is because when they're in the ground, coyote can't see what color it is, but you can see from a distance when it's set off. I use the MB 550 2-spring. Start out with 4-spring, but that's hard on the hands, especially for Georgia. We don't really get that cold, so why do overkill? I have not lost one to the 2-spring. They fired in the freezing cold. I've caught them as cold as it gets in Georgia. But yeah, I use kitchen gloves. That's what I use to set the traps with. Just a thick rubber glove. I use these are my trapping boots. They're snake boots. I bought them for bow hunting, but I walk a little too far to be wearing a rubber boot anyways, and they rub blisters, so I said, well, they're rubber, we'll use them for trapping boots. I got a trap bag from Coyote Trapping School. Hands down, best bag. I've tried them all. I've tried tool bags, I've tried book bags, I've tried the trap baskets, all of it. I much prefer a bag because it's just easier to deal with. It opens up wide, it holds it open. It's got weep holes in the bottom. In Georgia, we get a lot of rain, and which leads me to my next part. I use a feed sack to put down on the ground, to kneel down on, put my trap pad on top of. This is a $2 store pads I super glued together. Put that down on top, and when it rains, you can open it up, put your trap bag in it, especially when you're at work and you run the trap line before work. That's what I do. I do all my trapping before work. And occasionally it'll start raining while I'm at work, so I go outside, I take my bag and I shove my bag inside my feed bag, and it works. And as much dog food as I go through with beagles, I have plenty of bags, so if I rip one, if I lose one, ain't a big deal. Use an old igloo cooler to put all my baits and lures in. I want to keep them separate. I don't want to use the same pair of gloves to set as I use for my bait, so I got an extra pair of gloves that I use to bait and lure the traps. That way I keep my hands clean. A lot of times I'll put on some rubber gloves, some of them little nitrile gloves under my regular gloves, just to keep my hands from stinking, because any of y'all that trap, y'all know your hands get to stinking after a while, and my truck stinks during trapping season. So I've covered that. I use full metal jacket. I don't dye and wax them. Every time I've waxed them, it's gotten hot on me and I've ended up with a puddle of wax underneath my trap. Just wherever I've got them set, and I don't like to put them in a trash bag or anything like a trash can. That's where I store them at, is in a trash can, but I've had it get hot enough while I'm trapping. It just, sitting out on the asphalt, it'll start melting a little bit. I don't know why, it just happens. Maybe I do it at the wrong time of the year, but I try to do my full metal jacket in September, so it gives it plenty of time. I do 2 coats on it like it says, and it's plenty warm enough in September. Hang it up, tie a little knot with my super stake, tie a little knot, leave it hanging. Use a spray bottle from the dollar store. Spray them down good after I get them good and clean. Spray them down, let it wait a couple days and spray them down again. Make sure I get a good coat on them. Make sure I get them opened up. When I was doing for the live sale, I got to using the offset jaws. and that has saved me more times than not. Just keeping blood flowing to the foot. I had, there was one night it got very cold, and I had some traps mixed in that was not offset jaws, and the foot, I think it got down to 12. In the foot, it hurt the foot, but with the offset jaws, it left plenty of room for them to move around in to keep that blood flowing, and they were no problem with the foot. And when you're going live market, a bunch of fox pins and foxhounds, they run them coyotes, so you gotta keep them feet good. Regular old sifter, can't argue that. My trapping hammer, I like the one with a scoop on the end. A bunch of people, they like to dig a big old hole. I'm not one of them people. I'll waller out the top. Once I get it down, I'll waller it out. But I like going about that. I like going about so deep, you know. Make him work for it. You'll keep him there longer, putting it at the bottom. I don't like sheep's wool. A bunch of people do. I catch more possums, so I use sheep's wool. When I quit using sheep's wool, possums, you still gonna catch them, but they backed up a bunch. Tempered driving rod for those super stakes. In Georgia, you know, we got that red clay, so sometimes they're pretty hard to pull up. Got me a trap puller for that. An old screwdriver. I'll slide through the chain to get them pulled up, but and they'll take a beating. That was my first one. It took, I don't know how many years. You can see it's kind of bent. It took a bunch of beatings, but my tip broke off, and it's good for if you catch a. I was watching on Amazon, there's a guy, when he catches a fox, he'll pop them behind the head and it'll knock them out. So you can get them out of the trap a lot easier. I ain't knocked one out, but, you know, just in case you get one that gets loose and comes after you, you got something to defend yourself, or you got whatever you need it for. But yeah, if he's gonna get held up in the car, I'd hate to get hit with one. But anywho, and for a trap cover, when you're putting them down, a bunch of people don't like beating on the traps with this red clay in Georgia. You can tap it and it'll set it pretty good. But I use a coffee filter. That's what I use for a trap cover. Works good, goes under the jaws, gets wet, you know, I ain't had none dig it up. I ain't never had nothing really feel it, because once you put that much pressure on it, you're gonna have it firing anyways. I've tried the screen protectors, and I've tried the hulls and all manner of things, and the polyfill, and it just ain't never been my thing. Coffee filters ain't never failed me, so I ain't gonna change it. That's what I'm gonna use. So that's pretty much it. That's what I use. All matter of baits and lures. They all work. If they didn't work, they wouldn't be in production. During deer season, I'll get as many deer scraps as I can, because if you deer hunt, you know, you shoot one, whatever's left, them coyotes is gonna pick it apart that night. So a lot of my bait is deer meat. I just do that up myself, grind it up, put it in a bucket, let it do its thing on the warm days. You know, leave it a week, let it work itself off, and when you start smelling it out of that bucket with it covered, you know, you put it in a container, it's ready to go, it's got enough smell to it. Put your little salt on there to, you know, preserve it a little bit, but that's pretty much what I use. I don't know really what else to cover. Good truck, make sure you get in and out where you're going. Make sure you got you a good hat. Make sure you keep your feet clean. Make sure you keep your hands clean. Coyote's got a good nose. I hear a bunch of people saying they have to rebait and relure and all this every couple of days. My best luck's been when I've baited on Saturday come Friday. After a good rain, it dialing that scent down and makes them, you know, calms it down a little bit. Some of these baits and lures are a little loud. So don't let the rain deter you. Use grass clippings. If you got a bunch of rain coming in, don't make a mud hole. that's pretty much it. Ask you questions. I'll try to answer them best I can. I don't know too much, but I learned firsthand. I didn't have nobody to really train me up. Coyote Trapping School on YouTube. Chris taught me a bunch just watching his videos, and just different ones. Don't ever think you know it all, because these coyotes are the best teacher. You're beating them at their game, so you just keep your traps clean. Make sure that they're good and bedded. If I got any advice on anything, you make sure that trap's bedded good. If you got a wobble, that dog's gonna pick you apart. Fox will do the same thing. Bobcat, they'll find, if you got a trap at rocks, they'll know it, and you won't catch nothing out of it. So make sure you're good and solid. But that's about all I got for this evening. Ask you questions, like, subscribe. We'll try to keep going with this. If you got questions, I'll try my best to answer them. But what my buddy asked me about the wax, and I told him, just boil them things down, that wax will come off. And Coyote can't see through the dirt no way. He can smell through the dirt, but he can't see through it. So the dye, I just don't see no point really in it. Once you get that little layer of rust on it, that your treatment will stick to it pretty good. So just get your whites off, make sure they're good and clean, because the dog he's got knows better than we got. And if it smells like metal, he's gonna dig it up. Possums, raccoons will dig you up. But have fun. If you ain't having fun, you ain't gonna keep doing it. So learn from them, keep going, and just remember, Jesus' grace is sufficient.